His credit, taking it. Oh!
Flying knee!
What if I told you that one punch made Michel Pereira an overnight internet sensation? Before he even stepped foot in the UFC, yeah, it wasn't just a punch. It was a Superman punch. And that's just the beginning of the wild ride he's been on ever since.
This is crazy, man. I am really
But here's the thing, Michel Pereira isn't just another fighter. He's the UFC's walking spectacle.
Welcome to the middleweight division, Michel Pereira.
He's got flips, he's got dances, he's got moves you've never seen before. So, how did a kid from a small Brazilian town end up fighting and entertaining? On the biggest stage in MMA. Stick around, because you're about to find out. Before we dive in, let's answer the big questions you probably have. How did a kid from the middle of nowhere end up as one of the UFC's most unpredictable fighters? What's the story behind his crazy style? And does it actually work in the octagon? And finally, what's next for the man who turns every fight into a highlight reel? Let's break it down. You're in for a ride. Imagine growing up in a small town in Brazil, far away from the glitz and glamour of the UFC. That's exactly where Michel Pereira's story starts. Tucuma, a little-known farming town.
Pulando a água, tá o nosso cabecinho de buraquê. Olha ele! Primeira dama, Elizabeth Taylor.
His family wasn't living a life of luxury. In fact, they were farmers. But from a young age, Pereira knew he was destined for something more. At just 12 years old, he stepped into the world of karate.
E hoje, estou aqui. Vencer não é apenas sobre conquistar título, é sobre perseverar e alcançar o que antes parecia impossível.
And before long, his life was never the same. But that was only the beginning. By the time he was 16, he was already training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Talk about a jumpstart. And just for fun, he threw in Capoeira, a Brazilian martial art that blends acrobatics, dancing, and striking. It wasn't exactly what you'd call traditional training for a future MMA fighter, but that's what made Michel Pereira stand out. While other fighters focused on the basics, Pereira was blending moves that were as flashy as they were effective. It was his unique style that would eventually make him a force to be reckoned with in the UFC.
Michel Pereira, how do you not love watching Pereira compete?
Oh, he just slapped him, Johnny just slapped him.
Nimadiyev retreats, eats a left hook.
Let's fast forward a bit. By the time Pereira was 21, he was already building a solid career in regional MMA. With an 11-4 record, he earned a spot with XFC, a local promotion, where he fought under the name Demor, meaning the Destroyer.
Superman punch after some fancy footwork. Oh, immediately a Superman punch off the back.
His reputation was starting to grow, and not just because of his knockout power. No, this was a guy who'd bring flair and creativity to every fight. But here's where things got interesting. While he was climbing the ranks, Pereira started carrying around a soft toy mascot, a quirky touch that made fans love him even more.
Whoa, wow, Superman punch after some fancy footwork.
This wasn't just a fighter, he was a showman, and people were taking notice. He went global, traveling to Asia and Europe, earning the SBC welterweight title with a shocking UFC.
Oh!
He was facing off against Jung Hae-jun, a guy who had just won 4 of his last 5 fights. Most fighters would have been nervous, but not Pereira. He entered the octagon with the kind of swagger you'd expect from a man who knows he's about to do something special. Pereira went to work, showing off his capoeira moves, flying kicks, dancing jinga, and that signature Superman punch. By the third round, despite June having his moments, Pereira came out on top, proving he was more than just a dancer. He was a fighter. And that was just the start. As Pereira's career grew, so did his challenges. A move to Serbia's SBC promotion saw him take on undefeated striker Duko Todorovic for the middleweight title. Pereira landed a solid right hand, but things didn't go his way. Todorovic pressured him and eventually ended the fight with a flurry of punches. But here's the thing, even after losses, Pereira didn't let setbacks define him. Just 2 weeks later, he was back in action, knocking out Won Jun Choi in record time with a jaw-dropping backflip for good measure. The crowd went wild, and Pereira's reputation as a fighter and entertainer soared. But it wasn't all fun and games. 2 months later, Pereira returned to Korea to face a fighter with a 4-5 record. What happened? Pereira turned the fight into a one-sided affair, knocking his opponent down repeatedly and showing off his impeccable timing. This wasn't just about winning, it was about putting on a show. By now, everyone was talking about Michel Pereira. His flips, his dancing, his unpredictability, it was all part of the package. So it's no surprise when the UFC came knocking, offering Pereira a spot in 2019. His debut was against Danny Roberts, and to no one's surprise, Pereira delivered in spectacular fashion. In the first round, he landed that iconic Superman punch, finishing Roberts in just 1 minute and 29 seconds. He followed it up with a flying knee, securing a Performance of the Night bonus. Pereira wasn't just in the UFC, he was already one of the most exciting fighters on the roster. But it wasn't always smooth sailing. In his next fight against former Risen champion Tristan Connolly, Pereira learned a tough lesson. His style alone wouldn't win him every fight. Connolly, relentless with his pressure and takedowns, exposed some gaps in Pereira's game. Despite the spectacular moves and the flashy punches, Pereira lost the fight, a humbling moment in his young UFC career. But like any true competitor, Pereira came back stronger. A fight against Diego Sanchez followed, where Pereira was on his way to a dominating win before a careless mistake. A flying knee to Sanchez's head while he was grounded got him disqualified. Once again, Pereira faced adversity, but it only fueled his growth. Fast forward to 2020. Pereira was facing Zalim Imadaev, and this time, he wasn't just fighting for the win, he was fighting for redemption. After a heated weigh-in, where Imadaev slapped Pereira, the Brazilian went into the fight with a chip on his shoulder. And boy, did he deliver. From the get-go, Pereira was one step ahead, pulling off the Showtime kick and controlling the fight. In the final seconds, he locked in a rear naked choke, earning a $50,000 Performance of the Night bonus. The old Pereira was gone. This new version was focused, calculated, and ruthless. From that moment on, Pereira went on a tear. He picked up 2 more wins in 2020, including a dominant decision victory over Chaos Williams, who was known for his knockout power. Pereira showed that he could win with his striking, his wrestling, and his smarts. No more relying solely on his flashy moves. This was a man who had evolved, and 2021 was his year to solidify his spot in the UFC's top 15. After a few more victories, he took on Santiago Ponzinibbio, a tough-as-nails fighter with knockout power. Pereira used his improved skills to outclass Ponzinibbio, earning a split decision victory. At 28 years old, Michel Pereira has finally found the balance between being a showman and being a serious contender. His record now stands at 27-11, and his performances have earned him a place in the UFC's top ranks. He's not just a fighter, he's an entertainer, a man who brings something different to every fight. Whether it's his flips, his dancing, or his unpredictability, Pereira has become a fan favorite and the UFC's most unique fighter. So, what's next for the Brazilian Ninja? With his evolving style and newfound patience in the octagon, there's no limit to what he could achieve. One thing's for sure, we haven't seen the last of Michel Pereira. The Brazilian Ninja is just getting started. If you enjoyed this wild ride through the life of Michel Pereira, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the world of MMA. And who knows, the next UFC sensation could be right around the corner. Stay tuned.